Sorry, couldn't resist some Rusty there, as he's back after about 5 days away. I'm stood in Perthshire, Perth and Kinross, at now Tippermuir, but what was then Tippermuir. And we're about 3 miles outside of the city of Perth, which is through those trees. And this was the scene in 1644. The Marquis of Montrose had ridden up from England after meeting with King Charles I to collect a royalist army. He'd crossed the border with just himself and 2 other men, 3 horses, in disguise with a king's standard and a letter in their saddle, and that was it. Armies had been raised on both sides, both for the Parliament side, the Covenanters, and also for the Royalists. It still was largely divided along clan lines. Alistair MacDonald, known normally by his Irish name, MacCallach, or various different versions, but he was of the MacDonald clan, raising the core of the Royalist army of the Irish who'd come over to largely fight the Covenanters and the Parliamentarians, led by Argyll, who's of the Campbell clan. As the Covenanters, as I'll call them, raised more troops against the Royalists and marching out of Perth, some of them, including, I quite like the fact it was the Graham clan, had come over to meet Montrose, who was the head of their clan, and they turned coat and joined him. So at the core of his army, he has the Irish, and they march along the roads down from Athol. You can see these beautiful snow-topped hills. That's Tay. So Athol's just a few miles further up towards Pitlochry. They gathered some of the men of Athol, and they'd taken water in the church of Tippermuir, which is just down there. They'd marched out. Now there's a slight debate whether the battle was fought east-west or north-south, but it was probably fought along the Gallows Road, which is this road here, making this the right flank of the Royalists, left flank of the Covenanters. And I'm stood on a modern piece of scree. They had barely a shot between them in the Royalist army, apparently just 1 shot a man. And Montrose said one of either 2 things. He either said, fire your musket into the face of the Covenanters, take their weapons and attack, or he said, take up one of these stones, bash out their brains, and then take up their arms. Either way, they were out-armed, but they weren't out-trained or out-motivated. Most of the disputed 2,000 to 7,000, wide range of figures, Covenanters were untrained militia, but they did have cannon and cavalry, whereas the majority of the Royalist army were the Irish. They were very highly motivated. They also had some of the clans as well, well armed with the Lochaber axe, which is a bit like a halberd standing up with the head, between a halberd and a billhook. They formed up. The Covenanters sent out skirmishers into the middle grounds, which were quickly seen off, apparently with 1 volley. And then the MacDonalds, the Irish, charged forwards, grabbing their axes, grabbing their dirks, probably with targes and basket-hilt swords, and into the Covenanters. They went through the first line, through the second line, and then it was complete retreat. Montrose himself brought up his army across the right flank, near this position probably, onto the high ground, which is where we are, and then pushed down towards the Covenanter rank. Apparently very few Covenanters killed in the main fighting, but the story goes that you could walk the Gallows Road down there into Perth, just carrying onto the backs of the dead. It was a complete slaughter with loot and murder onto the town, and any man carrying a weapon who was found by the Royalists was killed, and that weapon was taken. A very quick victory, beginning of the year of miracles for Montrose. He had a year now, even though it's September, pushing into 1645, a victory after victory until Philippa. So this was where it started, with almost no weapons between them. A quick sweep, a Highland charge. Again, Alistair, he was Irish, but of Scottish clan, and he had perfected that Highland charge. They moved forwards very quickly, fired that 1 volley, stopping. Some of them apparently had bows, or they threw those rocks and then went into the Covenanter lines, militia, cannon. So very, very quick battle, but on this open field, no memorials, no markers. There was a plaque in the city centre just to the Covenanter militias who'd been killed. And as an afterpiece, because I was just down at the church, the minister of the church gave Montrose a glass of water. And because of that, the diocese and the men of Perth investigated him, wanted to strip him his vestments and asked why he would give their enemy a glass of water in the morning. And he bravely stood there and said, "Not a man of you would not have kissed his arse that day if you hadn't asked for it." So I quite like that. Montrose, a very charismatic leader, leading probably outnumbered force with almost no ammunition, sweeps this field across and wins a first victory. And this is us in Perthshire. You can see that. I think I can zoom in. Oh, I can. Onto these hills, lovely snow top. And the other bits is always popular, Rusty with a Stick, Loving Life. I haven't got off the lead because I am in the middle of nowhere and I don't know the area as well, but it's good to be with our faithful hounds, find these battlefields. We're going to have a quick look about the battlefield and then end up at the church later. I can see some people have tuned in, so that's lovely. Thank you. Someone else asking where we are. So Tippermuir, which is now spelt Tippermuir with a double B, just outside of Perth, about 3 miles outside of Perth. You have to park in a lay-by to walk here. So this is the 1644 Battle of Tippermuir, as it was then called, but now a small village of Tippermuir outside of Perth in Perth and Kinross, Scotland. So that's this battlefield. It is a really lovely spot. Thank you for tuning in, some people on live today, and I'm hoping to do more of these because there's so many battlefields, and kind of my plan over this coming year is to do more. There's so many between the Bucks, Montrose, and all the different Jacobite uprisings between the 1689 all the way through to the famous 45. I want to visit as many as I can. That's not counting all the castles, all the clan battles and massacres that there is here in Scotland, and possibly down to the borders as well, as I'm now based up here. And also watch this space. Also watch this space, as have really nice stuff coming up with a friend of mine. We'll do the big announcement soon, Red Coat History channel, but we are filming overseas for a new YouTube channel content for him on Red Coat History. Christian, great guy, really good friend of mine, and just a really good mate and bloke, and we will have some very exciting content very soon, basically next month now. So watch this space. Lots more of us overseas. We'll have some wine, we'll have some adventures, and we'll get a really high quality content out there. But from Rusty and myself in Scotland, thank you.